Previously, you will have factorized quadratics that look like this first question here. So here we've got x squared plus 7x plus 12. It's in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, but a has always been 1. We've always had just one x squared term. And in this video, we're going to look at how we factorize quadratics when this number is greater than 1. So how did we factorize this? How will we factorize this? We say to get x squared, we have x times x. So there's an x in both brackets. And we're looking for two numbers that multiply to make the 12 and add to make 7. So if we write down the numbers that multiply to make 12, that's 1 12, 2 6s, or 3 4s. Which of those will add to make 7? It's 3 and 4, and it's a positive 3 and a positive 4. So that's factorized, that's put into brackets. And if we expanded and simplified this, we would get back to our question. Let's look at expanding and simplifying something with an x value greater than 1. So to expand and simplify, we multiply both of the terms in the first bracket by both of the terms in the second bracket. So we're going to do 2x times x, which makes 2x squared, 2x times 5, which is 10x, 3 times x, which is 3x, and 3 5s, which is 15. Then we're going to collect our like terms. So we've got x terms, we've got 10x and 3x, which we can add together to give us 13x. So we've got 2x squared plus 13x plus 15. And that is our answer. Now the next question says factorize, and you'll see that this is the question now. So the answer is going to be 2x plus 3 and x plus 5. But we're going to look at how we can get there. So what we can see is that 3 and 5, the two numbers that are going to be inside our brackets, multiply to make 15, but they don't add to make 13. And that's because when we expanded, we did 2x times 5, which doubled the 5, and it became 10x. So we can't use that same method anymore. But what we can do is if we look at these two numbers in red, the 10x and the 3x, we can see they do add to make 13. So these two numbers add to make 13. And they multiply to make, because we doubled one of the numbers, 2 15s. And we call that our A times C, our A times our C term. So they multiply to make our A times our C. 2 15s are 30. So if we look for two numbers that multiply to make 30 and add to make 13, we can find out what these two numbers were. So what multiplies to make 30? 1 30, 2 15s, 3 10s, or 5 6s. So they are our options. They multiply to make 30. Which one of those can give me a 13? Well, two of them can, 2 and 15 and 3 and 10, but we want them both to be positive because they've got a multiply to make a positive. So it's going to be 3 and 10. And that's what we had here. So we're going to use this 3 and this 10. So let's put this into brackets. So we've got 2x squareds. So we must know we can get 2x squared by doing 2x times x. And we're going to use 3 and 10. But remember, we've doubled one of them. So how can we get rid of doubling one of them? How can we undo doubling one of them? Well, we do the opposite, which is halving it. So I'm going to put a divide by 2 over here. We want plus 3 and plus 10. And we can simplify the 10 over 2, which will be 5. And there is our answer. So let's run over another one of these. So we've got 5n squared this time. So in our brackets, we can have 5n and n. 5n times n is going to be 5n squared. We're going to look at what multipliers to make. 5 times 12. 5 times 12 is 60. So we're going to look at what multipliers to make 60 and adds to make 23. But remember, one of those numbers that we find will be multiplied by 5. So we're going to undo that by dividing one of them by 5. So let's look at what multipliers to make 60. We can have 1 60, 2 30s, 3 20s, 4 15s, 5 12s, and 6 10s. So which of those can give me 23? That's going to be 3 and 20. And it's going to be a plus 3 plus 20. I'm going to put the 3 in the first bracket because I want to simplify the 20. It would be correct if we put them the other way around, but it wouldn't look as good. So let's just simplify that. 20 over 5 is 4. So we've got 5n plus 3 and n plus 4. Okay, there's one for you to try here. If you feel ready to give one a go, do it yourselves. Otherwise, you can keep watching. Okay, so we've got 3x squareds. So we're going to put 3x in one bracket, x in another bracket. That's going to multiply to make 3x squared. And we'll do a times c. So 3/8, which is 24. So we'll look at what multipliers to make 24. But remember, we're going to have one of our numbers multiplied by 3. So to undo that, we're going to divide by 3. So what multipliers to make 24? 1 24, 2 12s, 3 8s, and 4 6s. Which of these can give me a 10? Well, I've got two options here. So 2 and 12 give me a 10, and 4 and 6 give me a 10. I need them to multiply to give a positive 24. So this is a positive 24, and 4 plus 6, positive 4 and positive 6, add to make 10. But for 2 and 12, I'd have to do positive 12 take away 2. So I'm going to use 4 and 6. I'm going to put the 6 over the 3 because 6 is a multiple of 3, so I can simplify that. So I've got 3x plus 4 and x plus 2. Okay, we've got another example. This time we're doing the same thing. We've just got some negatives in the question as well. So we've got 3a squared. So that's going to be 3a times a. And I'm going to put over 3 on one of the numbers because I'm going to multiply by 3. So I need to undo that. So we're going to do a times c. So 3 times negative 10 is negative 30. I'll put the negative there just in case we need to know that it's negative. And we look at the factors of 30. So 1 30, 2 15s, 3 10s. It's not in the 4 times table, and it's 5 6s. So we need to make a -1, a -1 out of them. There's only one option, so it's going to be 5 and 6, and that will be +5 and -6. So +5 -6. Again, 6 is a multiple of 3, so it's better to put that one over the 3. So we've got 3a plus 5 and a minus 2. Okay, one for you to try, so you give this one a go. So we've got 2x squared, so we're going to have 2x in one bracket, x in the other bracket, and we're going to put a divide by 2. One of the numbers we find, we're going to have to divide by 2. We'll do a times c. 2 21s are 42. What multiplies to make 42? 1 times 42. 2 21s. 3 times 14. It's not in the 4s, the 5s, and it's in the 6, 6 times 7. Which of these can give me a 13? Only 6 and 7. And it's going to be both negative. So we're both negatives. I'm going to put the 6 over the 2. And again, that's because I can divide 6 by 2. So I've got 2x minus 7 and x minus 3. Okay, a little bit harder. And, well, I'll just go through the question and then you can see why once it's done. So we're following the same steps. I'm going to write, I want 4m squared. So I'm going to write 4m in one bracket and m in the other bracket. I'm going to do a times c, which will multiply by 4. So I'm going to undo that at the end by dividing one of my numbers by 4. So a times c, 4 35s. So double 35 and double it again, which is 140. There could be a lot of options here. So we write down the factors of 140. 1 times 140, 2 70s. It's not in the 3 times table, otherwise the digits would add up to a multiple of 3. 4 times 35, so I've doubled one and half the other one. 5 times 28. It's not in the 6 times table, it is in the 7 times table, which is 7 times 20. It's not in the 8 times table or the 9 times table. It's 10 times 14. And then we're done. So they're the options. Which of those can give me a 24? So that's 10 times 14. None of the other ones can. So 10 times 14, and they're both positive, but you'll see neither of those is in the 4 times table. So I'm going to put 10 and 14. It doesn't matter which way round I do it, both positive, because neither are in the 4 times table this time. So I've got 4m plus 10 and m plus 14 over 4 is the same as 7 over 2. So I could leave it like that, but there is a way of writing this without a fraction. So you'll see the first bracket is 4m plus 10, and they are both even. They're both in the 2 times table. I can take 2 outside of that bracket. So I could take 2 outside of the first bracket, which will give me 2. 2 times 2m makes 4m. 2 5s make 10. And then I can multiply the second bracket by 2 to get rid of the fraction. So I'll have 2m plus 5 So I'm doubling the second bracket. So 2 times m is 2m. And 2 times 7 over 2 is 7. Okay, one of these for you to try, so try and give that a go. So we've got 6x squared. So I can have 6x and x. 6x times x makes 6x squared. I'm going to do a times c. So 6 times negative 10, which is going to be negative 60. But because I'm multiplying by 6, I'm also going to divide one of my numbers by 6 to undo that. So what multiplies to make 60? 1 60, 2 30s, 3 20s, 4 15s, 5 12s, 6 10s, and they are all the options. So which of these can give me an 11? That's 4 and 15. So we need to make a positive 11. So it's going to be positive 15 take away 4. So we're going to have 15, positive 15 take away 4. So let's write down what we've got. We've got 6x plus 15. And we've got x minus, we can half top and bottom. So x minus 2/3. So again, this is correct. It is factorized, but we can get rid of the fraction as well. So we can divide the first bracket by 3. We can factorize 3 out of the first bracket. So that will be 3 times 2x makes 6x. 3 5s make 15. And then we can multiply the second bracket by 3. So that will give us 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 2/3 is 2. Okay, this time the question doesn't say factorize. This time the question says solve. So that means find out what b is, and we're going to solve it by factorizing. So we're going to follow the same steps to start with. So we've got 2b squared, and we're going to get that by having 2b multiplied by b. We're going to do a times c, so 2 times negative 27, and because we're multiplying by 2, we're going to divide one of the numbers we find by 2 to undo that. So 2 negative 27s is negative 54. What multiplies to make 54? We can have 1 54, 2 27s, 3 18s. It's not in the 4 times table or the 5 times table, but it's 6 9s. So how can we make negative 15? That's going to be, so we've got 2 options. We can have 3 and 18 and 6 and 9. We need to make a negative 54. So how can we make a negative 15? It would be plus 3, positive 3 and a negative 18, or a negative 6 and a negative 9. Which of those multiply to give me 54? Negative 54, sorry. That's going to be the 3 and the 18. So we're going to have plus 3 and minus 18. 18 is even, so we're going to put that over the 2. So we've got 2b plus 3 and b minus 9. So how do we solve it? So there's going to be 2 answers, 2 b options. So either the first bracket is equal to 0 or the second bracket is equal to 0. So what would b have to be for the first bracket to be equal to 0? So 2b plus 3 to be equal to 0. And if we take 3 away from both sides and then divide by 2, b is negative 3 over 2. Or for the second bracket to be 0, b would have to be 9. 9 minus 9 is 0. So they are our answers. So one for you to try here. So solve 3x squared minus 19x plus 6 equals 0. So again, we're going to factorize. We're going to have 3x in one bracket, x in the other bracket, and we're going to multiply by 3. So we're going to do a times c, which will be 18. Then we look at the factors of 18. So 1 18, 2 9s, and 3 6s. Which of those can give me a negative 19? That's 1 and 18. And it's going to be negative 1 and negative 18. So let's simplify this. We've got 3x minus 1 and x minus 6. So that's factorized. Now to solve, either the first bracket is equal to 0 or the second bracket is equal to 0. So what would x have to be for the first bracket to be equal to 0? So if 3x minus 1 equals 0, what is x? So plus 1 to both sides, and then divide by 3, so 1/3. And what would x be for the second bracket to be equal to 0? That would be 6. And let's finish up with 2 questions. So pause the video, give them a go, and press play when you're ready for the answers. So question 1, we've got 5p squared minus 42p plus 16 equals 0. We're solving, and we're going to do that by factorizing. So let's have 5p in one bracket, p in the other bracket, and we're going to divide one of the numbers by 5 because we're going to multiply by 5. So we're going to undo the multiplication by division. So a times c is 5 16ths, which is 80. Now what multiplies to make 80? We can have 180, 2 40s. It's not in the 3 times table. It's 4 20s, 5 16s. It's not in the 6 times table or the 7, and it's 8 10s. Which of those can give me a 42? So it's going to be 2 and 40. It's a negative 42. So it's going to be minus 2 minus 40. So we've got 5p minus 2, and p minus 40 over 5 is 8. So to solve, either the first bracket is equal to 0 or the second bracket is equal to 0. So p would be 2/5 or 8. So 2/5 would make the first bracket 0, 8 would make the second bracket 0. Question 2. We have 6 x squareds. So we'll have 6x in one bracket and x in the other bracket. We're going to do a times c, so we're going to multiply by 6 this time. So we'll undo that by dividing one of the numbers we find by 6. So 6 2s are 12. What multiplies to make 12? 1 12, 2 6s, and 3 4s. Which of those can give us a 7? It's 3 and 4, and it's going to be negative 3 and negative 4. So neither of them are in the 6 times table. So let's simplify what we've got. And we could take 3 out of the first bracket, and then multiply the second bracket by 3. But because we are solving, we don't really need to go through that step, because all we want to know is what does x have to be to make the first bracket 0. So for 6x minus 3 to be equal to 0, what is x? So if we plus 3 to both sides, and then divide by 6, that is 1/2. And for the second bracket, what does x have to be for it to be equal to 0? Well, that's 2/3. So 2/3 minus 2/3 is 0. So x would be 2/3.